Hello students, today we are going to learn about chapter 3 history of class 7, the Delhi Sultans. Delhi Sultan is an important chapter as it is going to explain you about the condition of North India. Till now, you have read about South India, you have read about Rashtrakuta, you have read about Pallavas, you have read about Chola dynasty. So you have read about South Indian rulers. This chapter onwards, you are going to learn about the North Indian rulers particularly. With this chapter, there are a lot of changes which has happened. The beginning of Delhi Sultans starts with a foreign ruler. From here, foreign rulers started to rule India. Particularly, they started with North India. And I'm going to explain you about their expansion, about their administration, about their military force in this particular chapter. So let's start. There are certain key terms which are very important for you to remember. There are certain key terms which are very important for you to remember. Let's see what are they. Delhi Wal. It is a place where coins were minted or coins were made. Tariq, which means history. Tawarik is the plural of Tariq. Birthright. It refers to the privileges claimed on account of the birth. Gender distinctions. Social and biological differences between men and women. Hinterland. It refers to the land adjacent to a city or port that supply it with goods and services. Garrison town. It refers to a town which is fortified with soldiers. Mosque. It is called a masjid in Arabic and literally means a place where a Muslim prostrates in reverence to Allah, or the place where the follower of Islam people pray to Allah. Namaz. It refers to the prayer offered by a Muslim. Imam is the spiritual leader of the Muslims. Client. Someone who is under the protection of another, a dependent or hanger-on. Ikta. The territories under the military commander were known as Ikta. Kharaj. The tax on cultivation. Bandagan. The early Delhi Sultans, especially Iltutmish, favored their slaves purchased for military services. These slaves were known as Bandagan in Persian language. Introduction to Delhi Sultanate. Before the origin or before the establishment of foreign ruler in India, Delhi was one of the important capital under Tomar Rajputs, who were then defeated by the Chauhans of Ajmer. The transformation of Delhi into a capital that controlled a vast area of subcontinent started with the foundation of Delhi Sultan at the beginning of the 13th century. In this slide, you are going to learn about the rulers who have ruled over Delhi. Tomars, they have ruled in early 12th century. Chauhans, under the Tomaras and Chauhans, Delhi became an important commercial center also. Then comes the slave dynasty. With the slave dynasty, the beginning of Delhi Sultanate origins. In 1236, Razia, the daughter of Sultan Iltutmish, became the Sultan of Delhi. She was removed from the throne in 1240. Then comes the Khilji dynasty. One of the important ruler of Khilji dynasty was Alauddin Khilji. One of the famous ruler of Tughlaq dynasty was Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Then comes the Sayyid dynasty. At last comes the Lodi dynasty. Ibrahim Lodi was the last ruler, and in 1526, Ibrahim Lodi was defeated by Babur, grandfather of Akbar and father of Humayun. And from 1526 onwards, Mughal Empire ruled in India. So with Lodi dynasty, the Delhi Sultanate comes to an end. This is a chart where you can see the Delhi Sultanate started with the Turkish ruler establishing their rule in India. Then various others also came and ruled. For example, Khaljis, Tughlaqs, Sayyid and Lodis. These are the areas of Delhi Sultanate under different dynasties. This is Mamluk dynasty or the beginning of the Delhi Sultanate. Then comes the Khilji dynasty. This much area they have ruled in northern India. Tughlaq dynasty. As you can see, the expansion was much more. Then comes the Lodi dynasty. In this map, you can see Qutbuddin Aibak's area of control, how much area Iltutmish has ruled. Balban, in the second map you are seeing of Balban, Alauddin Khalji, Muhammad bin Tughlaq. In the third map you are watching, in the third map you can see the area ruled by Tughlaq and Sayyid dynasty and Sikandar Lodi. Finding about Delhi Sultans, from where we get the information about Delhi Sultans. Inscriptions, coins, architecture provide a lot of information for us. Apart from that, there are other valuable sources called histories written in Persian language. The author of this Tawarik or the histories were particularly learned men, secretaries, administrators, sometimes they are poets, courtiers, who both recounted events and advised ruler on governance, emphasizing the importance of the just rule. Delhi became an important kingdom under the Tomar Rajputs. It was only under the rule of Tomars and Chauhans that Delhi flourished as an important commercial center. The city was inhabited by many Jaina merchants or Jain merchants who had constructed a number of temples. Coins known as Delhi were minted in Delhi and had a wide circulation. Delhi Sultanate played an important and vital role in the transformation of Delhi into a capital which controlled vast areas of subcontinent. Razia Sultan, she was the first and the last woman ruler of Delhi. Razia was the daughter of Sultan Iltutmish. She became the ruler of Delhi in 1236, but she was dethroned only in 1240, only for being a woman, and was unacceptable to the nobles. The nobles could not bear that a woman will rule menfolk. Even a famous chronicler of that particular era, Minhaj Siraj, recognized Razia as one of the most capable and the most able ruler, even in comparison to her brothers, but was not comfortable with her being a lady. Circle of Justice. Fakhr-e-Mudabbir wrote in 13th century, "A king cannot survive without soldiers, and soldiers cannot live without salaries. Salaries comes from the revenue collected from peasants, but peasants can pay revenue only when they are prosperous and happy. This happens when the king promotes justice and honest governance." That is why this is called a circle of justice. Let me explain you how. King cannot survive without soldiers. He is interlinked with his soldiers. Soldiers are working for salaries, and they will only get salary if revenue are being collected from the peasant. And when can peasant pay the revenue? When can peasant pay the tax? Only when they are happy, they are prosperous, they are able to grow more, they are able to cultivate more. So as a result, the conclusion is, the task is in the hand of the king to promote justice and honest governance. From garrison town to empire. This image which you can see on the slide, this is a garrison town. It is a fortified town. Boundary is there. In the early 13th century, the control of Delhi Sultans rarely went beyond heavily fortified towns occupied by garrisons or occupied by the soldiers. Delhi's authority was challenged by Mongols and by governors who rebelled at any sign of the Sultan's weakness. The expansion of Delhi Sultanate took place under the reign of Balban, Alauddin Khalji, and Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Now let me tell you, in the early 13th century, Delhi Sultanate used to only control the garrison towns. The adjacent hinterland, which were next to city or port, that used to supply or that could have supplied them goods and services, were not in control of the Delhi Sultans. So that was a major problem for the Delhi Sultanate. They used to wait for trade, they used to wait for some tribute, they used to wait for some plundering. The expansion of Delhi Sultanate was very difficult because of Mongol invasion. Continuously Mongols were invading, and Delhi Sultanate rulers, they were getting engaged into those fights or wars. There were certain landslides or certain natural disaster which created a lot of impact, and even communication. It became difficult for the rulers to control or to connect or to communicate with the garrison land in Bengal. With the internal expansion, forests were cleared, particularly in the Ganga-Yamuna Doab region. Hunter-gatherers and other pastoralists, they were expelled or they were removed from that particular land. And this fertile land was given into the hand of the peasants in order to promote agriculture. As agriculture was promoted, regional trade also flourished. Externally, military expedition into southern India started, particularly with Alauddin Khalji, Muhammad bin Tughlaq. They campaigned and they have captured elephants, horses, slaves, and carried many precious metals from South India to North India. A mosque is called a masjid in Arabic. The head or the leader is known as the Imam. The Imam also delivers the sermon or the khutbah during the Friday prayer. During the prayer, Muslim stands facing the Mecca. In India, this is to the west. This is called as the Qibla. The Delhi Sultan had built many mosques in the cities all over the subcontinent. Mosque also helped to create a sense of community of believers who shared a belief system and a code of conduct. All the people who were the follower of Islam, they wanted to protect their belief, their code of conduct. It was also necessary to reinforce this idea of a community because Muslims came from a variety of background. These are some of the well-known or famous masjid during Delhi Sultanate. Motki Masjid, which is there in Delhi. Begumpuri Mosque, also built in Delhi. The Khaljis and Tughlaqs continued to use Bandagan and also raise people of humble birth who were also known as clients to high political position. They used to protect these Bandagans, they used to protect these slaves, they used to protect these people who were under their rule, and these people became very loyal to their rulers. They were also appointed as generals and governors. Slaves and clients were loyal to their masters and patrons, but not to their heirs. Slave and clients were loyal to the particular ruler or the patron who were there, who were ruling them, but not to their heirs. Those who came afterwards, they were not loyal to them. New sultans had their own servants. With the new sultans, new servant came and the old one was somewhere removed. Thank you. In the next lecture, I will explain you about the administration and consolidation process of Delhi Sultanate, and we are going to learn a little bit more about different rulers of Delhi Sultanate.